Before we get into today's incredible coin journey, if you love uncovering hidden treasures in everyday money and discovering real stories behind the coins you might already have, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Because what I'm about to share could completely change the way you look at coins forever. Today, I'm holding a coin that many people spent without a second thought, a coin that once jingled in pockets, rested in wallets, and was lost and found countless times over the years. This is the 5 Qirsh, also called 5 Piastres, issued in the year 2006 with the Hijri date 1427. Now, if you lived through the early 2000s, if you watched markets, currencies, and economies shift over decades, then this small, modest coin might stir something deep in you, a sense of nostalgia, a connection to history, and perhaps even a glimpse of real hidden value. On the surface, a 5 Qirsh piece might appear unremarkable. It's small in size, modest in denomination, a coin made for everyday use. Most people accepted it as exact change, used it for small purchases, and eventually lost or misplaced it in drawers or jars of loose change. But the story of this coin runs far deeper than its everyday role. For those of us aged 55 to 65, this coin represents an era, a time of economic evolution, cultural expression, and historical symbolism that many younger generations may overlook. Let's take a moment to place this coin in its historical setting. The year 2006 or 1427 in the Islamic calendar was a time when many countries in the Middle East were experiencing rapid change. Global economics were shifting, local economies were adapting, and currencies were reflecting both regional identities and global influences. A coin like this was not just currency, it was a piece of a nation's economic heartbeat, a reflection of trade, tradition, and everyday life. Collectors know that coins tell stories. They are not just metal discs with numbers. These coins are miniature time capsules. They capture a moment in history when hands exchanged them for bread at a bakery, tips at a cafe, or bus fares on dusty roads. When you hold this coin in your hand, you're touching a fragment of lived experience from countless people, from merchants to travelers, students to elders. And for seasoned collectors, that human connection is priceless. This coin carries both the Gregorian date, 2006, and the Islamic date, 1427. That alone makes it intriguing. Dual dating touches on two systems of time, keeping a bridge between cultures, ages, and historical perspectives. Many people in our age group remember a time when dual dating was more common, when calendars, coins, and daily life reflected complex cultural layers. Today, these elements stand out because they remind us of how societies evolve, and how we preserve identity even as the world changes around us. Now let's look at the design. You may not think much of it at first glance, but experienced collectors and seasoned enthusiasts know that subtle details matter: the font style, the prominence of dates, the arrangement of inscriptions, and the texture of the field. These are the traits that, when preserved, tell future historians and collectors about the minting quality and artistic choices of that era. Condition is where the real story begins. Most coins that circulated in the mid-2000s today show extensive wear. Edges are smoothed, inscriptions are blurred, and surfaces carry the memory of countless transactions. But every once in a while, a coin escapes that fate. It remains crisp, with sharp edges, clear inscriptions, and minimal signs of wear. These are the coins that set collectors' hearts racing, the ones that stand apart from the millions that entered circulation. And this is something every older collector understands intimately: coins that survive in excellent condition often become the true treasures over time. That's because survival rates in top grade diminish with every passing year. Think about it. How many of these 5 Qirsh coins minted in 2006 remain untouched by circulation today? And how many lie forgotten in jars, bent with wear, or corroded by time and environment? The answer is clear: very few. And that rarity is what sparks value. Now think about what this coin represents beyond physical wear. It symbolizes an economy at a specific moment, an economy that was interacting with global forces, trade patterns, and cultural traditions. The dual dating tells us about cultural continuity. The minting quality tells us about the priorities of that time. And the survival of certain coins in remarkable condition reveals a story of preservation that few people truly understand until they start collecting seriously. Collectors around the world appreciate coins that capture transitional periods. Why? Because they mark change. They become physical snapshots of history, moments that future generations will look back on with curiosity and reverence. This coin captures such a moment for the Middle East during the early 21st century. And there's something deeply attractive about that for seasoned collectors, especially those who remember how things used to be. For many of you watching men in the Wujihuo, to Fuyu age bracket, this coin may remind you of your own journeys, the markets you visited, the neighbors you exchanged currency with, and the transformations you witnessed in your lifetime. Serious collectors also understand that international interest can drive value. Coins from regions with rich history, vibrant culture, and deep numismatic significance often attract attention beyond their country of origin. Enthusiasts in Europe, Asia, and North America may seek pieces like this because they represent something different, something historical, cultural, and relatively scarce. This demand, when combined with rarity and condition, is what can push values upward over time. Another factor to consider is the emotional resonance. Coins like this aren't just metal. They are memories. They are tactile reflections of eras gone by. When you hold a well-preserved 5 Qirsh coin from 1427-2006, you're not just seeing a date, you're seeing the world of 2006 through the eyes of someone who lived in it. You're feeling the weight of history, even if that history feels personal. Collectors often talk about the story behind the coin, and that story becomes part of the coin's value. A coin that remains in pristine condition over decades has lived through time without losing its identity. That resilience itself becomes a form of prestige. And experienced collectors know that these are the pieces that find their way into serious collections, museums, and private showcases, the ones that are talked about around numismatic tables and prized for years. One of the most common misconceptions is that age alone determines coin value. But anyone with true numismatic experience knows that age matters, yes, but condition and historical context are just as crucial. A worn coin from 2006 without much distinction will rarely excite collectors. But a coin from the same year in almost mint state, clear details, pristine surface, sharp edges, suddenly becomes rare. And rarity, paired with cultural and historical depth, drives attention and pricing. This is where the story of the 5 Qirsh, 1427-2006 becomes fascinating. Because the coins that survive in excellent condition aren't just rare by numbers, they represent the interplay between history, preservation, and human appreciation. And men aged 55to65家 understand this dynamic better than anyone. You've watched items gain value over time: antiques, memorabilia, vintage cars, classic watches, and yes, coins. You know that time does not diminish value when something is preserved well. Time only increases its historical weight and desirability. Now let's talk about the broader collector market. Serious collectors pay attention to quality, narrative, and scarcity. A pristine example of this coin would catch the eye of anyone who understands these principles. These coins don't just sit in collections, they become conversation pieces, legacy items, and sometimes even financial investments. And speaking of value, the part many of you have been waiting for: after everything we've explored, the condition, the history, the symbolism, the rarity, and the international interest, the potential value for a 5 Qirsh Piastres coin from 1427-2006, preserved in exceptional condition and held over time, could reach up to $50,000 in the most serious collector markets. That's not just a number. It's the culmination of history, time, preservation, and the deep collector admiration for coins that carry more than just face value. So if you have one of these coins tucked away, or if you come across one in remarkable condition, take a moment to appreciate what it represents, because sometimes the smallest coins can tell the biggest stories, and sometimes they can hold incredible potential too.